Don't miss out. You're stepping into a life of connection starting now. Hear that first line as both invitation and permission. What you've been waiting for isn't some distant myth. It's a possibility that begins with the small choices you make today. You've spent seasons learning how to stand alone, and that endurance was never wasted. It was preparation. You might be tired of waiting. You might be guarded, practiced at holding your breath until the danger passes. That makes total sense. You survived by building walls when you needed them most. Those walls kept you safe. They held the pieces of you together while you relearned who you are beneath the chaos, beneath the expectations, beneath the stories other people told about you. So first, honor that. What you were forced to become to protect your heart was necessary. It is not a flaw. It is not selfish. It is resilience. If this resonates, drop a quick ready in the comments or subscribe so you don't miss the rest of these signs and practices that help you recognize alignment when it shows up. Now let's reframe solitude. Think of your time alone not as exile, but as a training ground. In a corridor of waiting, every step you took taught you something essential. You learned where your boundaries begin and end. You practiced being content with your own company. You learned how to regulate your mood without handing the responsibility to someone else. That kind of emotional independence is not separation from others. It's readiness for reciprocity. Training doesn't feel glamorous. It looks like late-night journals, slow mornings, awkward conversations with yourself, the work of naming what you need and what you won't accept. It looks like learning to say no without explanation, and learning to say yes when it actually lights something inside you. All of that prepares you to enter a relationship from fullness, not from lack. When you arrive at connection, already able to hold yourself, another person's presence becomes an addition, not a repair job. You may have been told that walls mean you're closed off or unlovable. That narrative is mean and incomplete. The truth is layered. Walls were survival. They were creative adaptations you used to keep living. But survival strategies aren't always sustainable forever. What protected you then can keep you stuck later. So the work now is gentle, learning when to lower a stone and when to let a crack become a doorway. Softening defenses is not becoming vulnerable for vulnerability's sake. It's choosing to trust your discernment and your pace. There's a curious thing happening in the world of heart and timing that many people describe in metaphorical terms. Think of it like a series of solar flares, not as science, but as image. Metaphorically speaking, there are moments when clarity moves faster than usual. Energy around us feels lighter, insights come more quickly, patterns that once felt permanent begin to shift with surprising speed. When we use the image of solar flares, we're describing a felt acceleration, an inner edit that says, now I see what I won't take back. It doesn't guarantee anyone will appear on cue, and it doesn't replace steady work. It simply names the experience of doors opening sooner because your internal alignment has changed. You may notice small accelerations in how you make choices. Maybe a habit that used to hang around you drops away in a week. Maybe a boundary you've rehearsed for years no longer stings when you hold it. Those are signs of inner reconfiguration. They mean your energy is rewriting what you accept and what you invest in. This symbolic brightness sometimes makes what matters suddenly obvious. Who is consistent? Who is not? Who matches your frequency? And who is checking boxes? When things begin to shift, interactions will look different than before. Pay attention to the texture of conversation, the rhythm of contact, the sense of gravity in someone's presence. Healthy alignment rarely enters like fireworks. More often, it arrives like a steady current, a string of small acts that over time create safety. A midday text that doesn't require performance. A Saturday morning message that asks how your week actually went. The person who shows up with small care and keeps showing up. These ordinary moments are the seeds of deep connection. It helps to hold a clear distinction between attachment and support. Attachment is fear-driven. It looks for certainty where there is none and clings to intensity as proof. It can make you feel seen only when things are dramatic. It mistakes urgency for love. Support and alignment, by contrast, are calm and sovereign. They show up to add to what you already have. They match your pace. They ask, "How are you?" And they wait for your answer without requiring a performance. Attachment demands, alignment offers. So how do you spot the difference? How do you know when someone is the beginning of something steady rather than a rerun of old patterns? Here are signs you may notice. Small, practical, and subtle. Pay attention to how these feel inside you, because your nervous system will often notice before your mind catches up. First sign, consistency without drama. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. It means the person's presence is not conditional on crises or spectacle. They text back in a way that feels reliable. They match words with actions more often than not. You don't have to interrogate every silence to feel secure. That steadiness is a foundation. It's quiet and it accumulates into trust. Second sign, conversations that land. It's easy to mistake small talk for connection, but genuine alignment changes the texture of what you share. You notice that conversations go deeper without forcing them. There's a curiosity that isn't invasive. They ask a question and then actually listen. You don't feel like you're performing. You can be honest about a bad day and still feel accepted. The silence afterward is not hollow. It's companionable. Third sign, calm energy rather than high intensity. In your past, you may have mistaken intensity for meaning. Now a healthy match will carry a calm steadiness. Their presence soothes instead of electrifies in unstable ways. That calm doesn't equal boredom. It's a stable center that allows for passion without volatility. You feel steadied rather than destabilized. Fourth sign, reciprocity in small things. The balance of effort becomes noticeable when giving and receiving occur in the same currency. If you text to check in, they check in. If you plan time together, they honor it. If you bring vulnerability, they respond with appropriate care. Reciprocity is rarely perfect, but it leans toward mutual attention over time. It's the small ledger that builds a life. Fifth sign, you're seen without performance. In past patterns, you may have been rewarded for fixing or for dramatizing pain. Now, someone who aligns with you will see the real you and not demand a recalibration. You won't feel like you have to be more interesting, quieter, or shinier to be lovable. Being yourself is enough, and that ease is a powerful signal. Sixth sign, alignment with your values and rhythms. This is practical and mundane. Does their lifestyle, priorities, and way of being dovetail with yours enough that you can imagine building ordinary days together? You don't need identical schedules or interests, but there should be a shared baseline. How you approach conflict, how you treat other people, what you do with free time. These mundane compatibilities make intimacy sustainable. These signs are not instant guarantees. They're patterns you notice over time. They are gentle experiments of trust. Give them space to breathe. Don't rush to name something forever on the first spark. Let ordinary sequencing do the work. Frequency of contact, quality of conversation, reliability of action, mutual care. As these signs appear, you might feel an odd combination of caution and relief. That's healthy. Grounded optimism is the practice here. Hope without desperation. You can be open to what might arrive and still keep the lessons of your past. Being ready doesn't mean you relinquish your standards. It means you show up with clear boundaries and generous curiosity. There are small daily practices that help you stay grounded while staying open. They're simple, not dramatic, repeatable, and they anchor you to your own center. First, notice your breath when you feel excitement or fear. It's not a fix-all, but a pause of 3 slow breaths can remind you of your capacity to hold emotion without being swept away. Second, keep a short boundary inventory in your journal. Once a week, list 2 things you're willing to accept in a relationship and 2 things you won't. This keeps your standards accessible and realistic, not an abstract ideal. Update it as you grow. Third, practice describing small interactions for their feeling rather than their meaning. For example, that text felt reassuring, instead of, that text means he's the one. This trains you to separate data from story, which reduces racing to conclusions based on scarce evidence. Fourth, cultivate ordinary rituals with yourself that aren't dependent on anyone else. A morning walk, a cup of tea, a phone-free hour. These rituals keep your center stable and make the arrival of someone else feel additive, not essential. Fifth, invest in one friendship actively. Healthy romantic relationship becomes sustainable when friendships are prioritized. A friend who knows you helps calibrate perspective when new attraction clouds judgment. Let's be clear about what this is not. This is not permission to abandon caution. It's not a license to bypass therapy or careful discernment when you need it. It's also not a moral contest. Readiness doesn't make you superior. It simply increases the probability that when connection appears, it will be reciprocal rather than corrective. Expect ordinary beginnings. The person who might align with your life may come through a sequence of small, ordinary moments, a shared laugh at a mutual friend's party, a conversation about a book, a neighborly exchange that turns into a weekly walk. These moments feel unremarkable in isolation, but compound into meaningful patterns. A steady presence becomes a container for deeper vulnerability over time. Don't disqualify something because it lacks instant fireworks. When the right kind of connection begins, you'll find that it expands what you already have instead of consuming you. It will respect your routines and your wounds. It will invite repair without insisting you break open everything at once. It will understand that you have learned how to hold yourself, and it will choose to accompany you rather than try to do your holding for you. A final note about pacing. Patience and speed can coexist. You can move quickly in the sense of decisive clarity, naming what you want, stating your boundaries, making or declining invitations, while also allowing depth to accumulate patiently. Speed without discernment is reckless. Patience without clarity is passive. The mature blend is to be clear and decisive about your non-negotiables and generous about how intimacy is earned and deepened. As this begins to happen, keep a small practice of gratitude for the training period. It's not about romanticizing pain, it's about acknowledging the growth it enabled. Each moment of solitude taught you an inner skill now useful in relationship, the ability to self-soothe, to ask for help without panic, to speak up for your needs, to listen without losing yourself. These are rare capacities. They will make your future connections healthier, more honest, and more sustainable. You may worry that softening makes you vulnerable to repeating past mistakes. That worry is valid. The difference now is that your softening is intentional. It's informed by what you survived, not naive to it. You are not collapsing your walls because you must. You are lowering stones because you choose to explore the possibility of something better. That choice is powerful. If you're wondering what practical next step to take today, notice one ordinary interaction and observe it. Did someone return your message in a way that felt aligned? Did a conversation leave you feeling lighter? Small data points like this matter. They are the breadcrumbs of alignment. Keep a quiet list. Over weeks, patterns emerge. That list doesn't need to be shared with the world. It's for you, a gentle map showing where trust can grow. I want to remind you of the central promise of this moment. Don't miss out. Not in the sense of forcing a timeline or panicking into a relationship, but in the sense of staying awake to what is starting to come into view. When your internal energy shifts, The external world often reflects that. You'll find that opportunities for connection appear in ordinary places and that your readiness makes you more likely to recognize them. Before we close, I'll offer one last encouragement. Be generous with yourself in the in-between. You don't need to be fully healed to be whole enough for connection. Wholeness is not absence of cracks. It's the willingness to show them to a person who cares to hold the light without trying to fix every fissure instantly. Let people earn proximity. Let your boundaries be the threshold that invites the right kind of visitor to enter. If something here landed for you, share one tiny sign you've noticed in the comments. A text that felt right, a calm conversation, a consistency that surprised you. And if you want guided exercises for staying steady and grounded as connection approaches, subscribe so you don't miss those tools. Stay open, stay grounded. You did the hard work of learning how to stand. And now, without forcing it, you're stepping into a life of connection starting now. Don't miss out on what your readiness is making possible.